Perhaps the single worst thing that news organizations do after a crazed gunman opens fire on a crowd is rush to judgment about the affiliation or beliefs of the shooter, as ABC News did.
There's a Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado page on the Colorado Tea Party site as well, talking about him joining the Tea Party last year. Now, we don't know if this is the same Jim Holmes, but it's Jim Holmes of Aurora, Colorado.
It turned out to be someone with the same name, and ABC and Brian Ross apologized. That was a terrible blunder. The other troubling thing that television in particular does is to turn such an atrocity into ideological fodder while the victims are still being treated. MSNBC had a gun control debate just hours after the shootings, and there was this gun control discussion on CNN.
Honestly, Piers, I think this is the wrong night to be doing this, and I really wish you'd waited to have this segment till after the funerals.
A lot of people have said that today. A lot of people who don't want strengthening gun control have said this is not the day to debate it. I tell you the day to debate it, it would have been yesterday to have prevented this happening.
And Bob, why the great rush by ABC to report what turned out to be flatly wrong information about the alleged shooter?
That's a pretty bad mistake. I mean, obviously, journalists in that situation, you're doing a lot of research. Who is this guy trying to... But you can't say that on television unless you confirm it, especially for such a common name. A bad mistake. I think generally the media did an okay job because a lot of the political shows, whether it's Bill O'Reilly or Hannity, they went to straight news coverage on this. But to make that kind of mistake, quite poor.
And it infuriated the Tea Party, and rightly so, with that kind of erroneous information. Ramesh Ponnuru, we saw Piers Morgan a moment ago in the early hours after this tragedy. He tweeted, "America has got to do something about its gun laws." And then Breitbart.com, the conservative site founded by the late Andrew Breitbart, threw up a big headline, CNN, Piers Morgan exploits Dark Knight Massacre to push gun control. Is a single tweet exploitation?
You know, I am actually pretty latitudinarian on this. I think. Can
you define that for our audience, people like me who don't quite get it?
I think, you know, that if you actually do believe that stronger gun control laws would have prevented this from happening, which I think is actually pretty dubious, but if you believe that, I don't see why you wouldn't make that argument on that day when people are paying attention, and it might make an impact.
And to this extent, gun control, what kind of weapons are used, other security matters, as we saw at Virginia Tech, legitimate part of the debate, but I feel so strongly about this. How about waiting a decent interval, maybe a day, until, you know, the families have had time to absorb the shock, the victims have been identified? Why this rush to do it immediately?
Well, if you